Hello, Christ is in our midst. I'm Father Kevin Long of St. Elias Antiochian Orthodox Church in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Today is Saturday, July 10th, 2021, and here are the readings for today. The first reading is from St. Paul's letter to the Romans, chapter 3, verses 28 through 31, and chapter 4, verses 1 through 3. Brethren, we hold that a man is justified by faith apart from works of law. Or is God the God of Jews only? Is he not the God of Gentiles also? Yes, of Gentiles also, since God is one. And he will justify the circumcised on the ground of their faith, and the uncircumcised through their faith. Do we then overthrow the law by this faith? By no means. On the contrary, we uphold the law. What then shall we say about Abraham, our forefather according to the flesh? For if Abraham was justified by works, he has something to boast about, but not before God. For what does the Scripture say? Abraham believed God, and it was reckoned to him as righteousness. And today's Gospel reading is from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 7, verses 24 through 29, and chapter 8, verses 1 through 4. The Lord said, "Everyone who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house upon the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, but it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house upon the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it." And when Jesus had finished these sayings, the crowd was astonished at his teaching, for he taught them as one who had authority, and not as their scribes. When he came down from the mountain, great crowds followed him, and behold, a leper came to him, and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, if you will, you can make me clean." And he stretched out his hand, and he touched him, and he says, "I will, be clean." And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. And Jesus said to him, "See that you say nothing to anyone, but go and show yourself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses commanded for a proof to them." Glory to thee, our God. Glory to thee. There is a rhetorical apparatus, a tool, that is used oftentimes in the Bible that helps to emphasize a certain thing. One of the classic examples is found in the book of Daniel, the prophecy of Daniel in the Old Testament, when it speaks of all the different sounds of musical instruments that are going to be played, and when those instruments are played, everyone is supposed to kneel down in homage to King Nebuchadnezzar. Well, today we have a smaller but yet similar thing that our Lord is saying, because it's a reminder to the people of exactly what happens in the course of life. So he's speaking, of course, using images, but the images are, well, they're pretty obvious. So look at this again. Everyone who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house upon the rock, a solid foundation, right? So the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, but the house prevailed. So that's the three-part emphasis of what's happening. It's not just one thing. It's one thing, and then another thing, and then another thing, and yet the house stands on the rock. And then our Lord uses exactly the same, but in the case of one who does not build it on the rock. Everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who's built his house upon the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell. And great was the fall of it. Okay, so not just that the reverse happened, instead of it standing, it fell, but also because of its fall, it was a great fall. It was a disaster. So in this, we can then turn around and we can see what our Lord is trying to tell us in this parable. That we as Christians are going to face all sorts of adversity, not just one type of adversity, but numerous types of adversities. We may face adversities from our past friends. We may face adversity from the government. We may face adversity from the climate, the very weather itself. We may face adversity from wild animals. We may face adversity from foreign nations. We may face adversity from our own family. All of these things may come because they hit both the just and the unjust. You see that. The rains fall, the floods come, the wind blows on both the just and the unjust. So each is faced with the same kind of trials and the same kinds of tribulations. So we learn that we are not free from that kind of adversity just because we are following Christ, just because we are rightly feeling that we're on the winning side. Not that there's like a competition like that, but that's for a later discussion. So when the adversity comes, what do we do? And the depth of our faith shows what happens. Now, when we look at the epistle this morning, we see that Gentiles and also the believers, the Jews, they both are given the same kind of measure to understand the depth of their faith and their commitment to God. And that faith is seen through not necessarily what they say or what belongs to them, because the law in many ways can be seen as a possession, but rather how well the law is kept, how it is lived out. Because there is nothing in the law that is bad, because God gave Moses the law. So when we look at the law, we don't see it as a possession, we see it as a way of life. And when we see it as a way of life, then we adhere to the teachings in faith and in love. Not as a mandate that we do so or we perish, not as a mandate because we're afraid of something, but out of our love for God. That, brothers and sisters, is building your house on the rock. Building your house on the sand is learning to trust on your own abilities, learning to think that, well, because I wear the right cross, or because I have the right bumper sticker on my car, or because I fast on the right days, or because I give alms to the poor, I'm going to be saved. No, you're not saved through those things. Those things are an expression of your salvation, but your salvation comes from Christ alone. And so we build our foundation on Christ, on what he taught, and on his words, and on his promises. And then from there, we go and we live our lives. The problem, I think, is that oftentimes we feel, because we have the right Bible, or we have the right liturgy, or we have the right cross, or we have the right worship, whatever, we tend to see it as a possession. I hear people say a lot, I was baptized Orthodox, which means I am Orthodox. Well, if you were baptized Orthodox in 1930, and you haven't been in an Orthodox church since 1930, then no, that is not a possession to have. You have to live out that faith from 1930 to 2021. Well, there may be gaps in the middle, but at least in 2021, you have to be participating in the same liturgy that you were when you were baptized in 1930. It's difficult, but it is part of who we are as Christians, that we remain in the community and not apart from it. All the same. So here we are, understanding that when adversity does come, and it will come, that we have in Christ the one who is going to take care of us and the one who is going to save us. Our foundation, our hope, our faith, everything should be placed on him and on nothing else. And when we do that, then our house will stand. When we don't, our house will fall. God be with us in our journeys towards him. And may God bless you and those that you love today and always. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. I thank you very much for joining me. I hope we see you tomorrow. Have a great day.